As a psychologist, as a teacher, as a rabbi, as a father, and as a blind person, the central message I have carried to my patients, to my students, to my congregants, to my daughters, and to myself throughout my life is that we can do better. Please, I'm asking all of you in J Street and throughout the country to support my campaign so we can, as a new Congress and a new president, solve the problems we have in Washington. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Dennis, I'd like to ask you if you could talk a little bit about how the issues related to Israel and the Middle East have played out in your race and how you have been positioning your support for Israel in terms of peace and security and some of the issues that J Street mentions.
Thank you. First of all, I want to say that of course, I have a strong emotional and political affinity to the State of Israel. I consider the security and safety of Israel as non-negotiable, really. I consider that it is only through the security of Israel, the true security of Israel, which means peace in the region, the true security of Israel, that we can, in fact, secure American security as well. That these are issues that are tied up together. In terms of how this is played out in our particular district, the person I'm running against, although he does support some narrow votes in relation to Israel, has voted against the foreign aid package, for example, which, as you know, Jeremy, and many might as well, that if his vote was a majority position, which of course it wasn't, that would have affected Israel in a terrible way, a disastrous way, in terms of cutting the budget of Israel in a way that was absolutely required. My opponent also, on particularly Jewish votes, has been Garrett has voted rather disturbingly on some Jewish votes that particularly affect Jewish people in this country, in my district, or whatever. That basically what he voted against was, for example, he supported the proselytizing, Christian proselytizing in the Air Force Academy. Mm-hmm. And he also voted, I think there were 13 in the entire House that voted against a museum to commemorate Polish Jewry.
What about when it comes to Iran? Today in New York, where we are having this event,
right.
There was a very large unity rally to express the concern of the Jewish community as a whole about the types of things that Ahmadinejad has said.
Right.
And unfortunately, that sometimes turns into a bit of a sort of saber-rattling and only tough talk approach. What would be your approach, and how do you think the U.S. should be dealing with Iran?
Well, let's start with how the U.S. did everything wrong in the Middle East in relation to Iran. I think as most people know who consider the Middle East a chessboard rather than a checker game, who consider the subtlety, knows that by not having an energy policy, we have essentially filled Iran's treasury. Of course, that makes them stronger, a lot stronger, not weaker. By taking away Saddam Hussein, who is the natural predator for Iran, we have bolstered Iran's position in the Middle East, which of course bolsters Hezbollah, bolsters Hamas, bolsters a threat to Israel that is even greater than the threat in Iraq. When I went to Israel most recently in October for a pre-planned trip, it was planned before I even decided to run for Congress, the word I got, and this is ranging from people who are driving the taxis, to people in the hotels, to people who were politically involved, was that the war in Iraq was disastrous for people in Israel because, in fact, even though some of them have supported it, they now are saying that this was disastrous because what we've done is made Iran stronger than it was before March of 2003. What do we have to do about Iran? We have to recognize, of course, Iran is a threat, but there are ways to deal with a threat. Military is not the first resort, it's the last resort. Everyone who studies the Bible our Torah or the Christian Bible knows that a military solution is always considered the last resort. The first 3, 5, 12 resorts have to do with robust, muscular diplomacy. This president and this administration doesn't seem to know from diplomacy. And I'm looking forward to a new president and a new Congress who are going to be pushing all the right buttons, both in terms of backdoor diplomacy, pressure, all kinds of pressure, to solve the problem so we can in fact have a pro-Israel, pro-peace.
That's true. And tell us maybe one final question. What do you think Congress can do? What is the role of Congress? If the president, new president we hope, come January, sets a new tone and a new direction for American foreign policy, what's the role of Congress in helping to shape the future of our direction in the Middle East and helping towards peace in particular?
Oh, I would say, one of the roles is in some ways what I implied in my opening remarks, which is that everyone should have a pulpit. That we should be arguing strongly if we see the State Department or the Defense Department moving in the wrong direction. The Congress's sacred responsibility is oversight, and we should be doing oversight. For too many years, the Congress was rubber stamping every one of the decisions, and most of the decisions were terrible decisions. We have to be overseeing the State Department and overseeing the Defense Department and saying, this is the right direction. That's Congress's sacred responsibility to basically say, this is not okay. What you are suggesting is not okay. I wish we had stronger voices in Congress, in the Republican Congress, before March of 2003, because I think that things would have turned out much better if Congress took its sacred responsibility, took its place on the pulpit, and argued the position towards a pro-America, pro-peace, pro-Middle East, pro-peace position. And so I'm looking forward to being part of that. I would say not even just discussion, maybe screaming, to make sure that things go in the direction that assures us a more peaceful Middle East and a more peaceful America.
That's terrific. Thank you. Now I think all of you can understand why we're so excited to be supporting Dennis Shulman. That's why we're asking all of you here tonight, as well as all of you at home, to help our endorsed candidates like Dennis Shulman to win their tight races so that voice in Congress can be heard so loudly and so clearly. Here's 3 things that you can do. First of all, your hosts have received a packet with a flyer that describes all of the candidates that J Street is asking for your support for tonight. We ask you to look through our website, read a little bit about the candidates, do your own research, and then make a contribution to the candidates that you decide you would like to support. Second, you can vote for the J Street's Grassroots Champion by visiting our website and taking part in the selection of our Grassroots Champion, who will receive a $5,000 contribution from the PAC. And third, you can go to JStreetPAC.org/house parties and contribute to Dennis or to any of the other candidates highlighted on the page, and your house party host will get the credit for having helped put that together for us. So now, I'd just like to say thank you to Dennis, thank you to everybody here in New York, and most importantly, thank you to you at home and to other people's homes for coming together tonight, not only to support J Street, but to support the change in American politics we're trying to create, and to help us to bring peace and security to Israel and the Middle East. Thank you so much.